slaughtering my Banelings. So my opponent really got that the Planetary Fortress up just in the nick of time, and so my attack was thwarted. But like I said, you just cannot allow your Terran to get that gold. So really, you need to keep trying to throw units at your opponent, at that Terran, and try to break his back. You know, when you apply pressure, you get so close to ending your opponent's Planetary Fortress, to ending that expansion, and a lot of times players will give up, but that's not what you should do. If you're good on your macro, you should have more attacking units, keep those Banelings rolling, and as you guys can see, I'm bringing in my Banelings once again, waiting for the Marines to come around, and of course now going to use those Banelings on all the Marines, all the SCVs, and then finishing off that Planetary Fortress. So that is, that's actually a huge bonus for me. It's a huge pickup to be able to keep my opponent on 2 base. Because like I said, if you allow a Terran to get the gold, then all those gold minerals are going to go to a bunch of Marines that you are just not going to be able to deal with. I can't deal with a bunch of Marines on the ground. It's just like, it's like staring death in the face. It's just too many Marines. You can't deal with it. Unless you've got a crap ton of Banelings, and even if you do, good Terrans are usually able to maneuver their Marines away from Banelings and use their tanks to take out the Banelings very easily. So right now my opponent is trying to retake that 4th Expo. I know I've got time before I have to make another attack, so right now I'm just focusing on pumping up more units, getting my Hive Tech going. I have Ultralisk Cavern on the way. And eventually, I'm going to push in and try to prevent this this gold expansion from going up once again. And it looks like I am going to go ahead and fly some of my Mutalisks in. This is one thing I haven't been doing very well, is using my Mutalisks to harass. I mean, if you think about it, if your opponent, if you are my opponent, and you see a bunch of Mutalisks flying in, darting in and out, your attention is so focused on trying to keep those Mutalisks away, using Stim on your Marines, wasting that health, and wasting your APM on dealing with those Mutalisks, that you'll slip in your macro, and that's really one of the key components to playing Zerg very well. Now, as you guys can see, I do have my 4th Expo up, so right now I'm running on 4 base. My main, I think, is mined out. But my army is nearing maximum size right now, and this is really a great position for me. It's a great position for me as Zerg. One thing I would do differently now that I'm watching this is I would have attacked the gold expansion once again right here, right now. I'm not exactly sure why I hesitated, because it's definitely morphing into the planetary. It's probably going to become the planetary in about 10 seconds or so. So, you know, if you guys are playing a lot of ladder games, make sure to check your replays. It helps a lot in terms of learning what to do differently the next time around. So as you guys can see, I am sending some of my Zerglings to deal with that Marauder. Not gonna bring over my whole army. Of course, that would be suicidal. And I am going to start now using my Overlord Baneling drop. This is really one of my key strategies that I love doing against Terran. But my opponent dropped a scan, so I can't just bring my Banelings in and drop them, because my opponents probably realize that what those Overlords are up to. So what I'm going to do is actually fly in with an attack here, bring everything in, and then I'm going to drop the Banelings when my opponent is completely distracted. And as you guys can see, all his SCVs are completely ripe for the picking, and the Banelings are going to drop down onto those SCVs. And it looks like I was able to pick off almost every single SCV at that Planetary Fortress. And at the end of the day, I was able to trade army for army. I think both of us came out about even in terms of army trading. And of course, I have all that macroed up Banelings coming back into play again. So that's just all coming back home to playing good StarCraft, being able to macro, getting your units out after a major battle. Now it looks like my opponent is positioning to move in for yet another attack, and I am going to bring my Banelings around. Unfortunately, my Banelings here were not able to get around those siege tanks. My opponent wisely threw up his tanks at the front and made it very difficult for my Banelings to come around. So that was a nice play by him. And now I'm actually in a little bit of trouble. These Marines could potentially do a lot of damage. I'm going to try to get these Zerglings to surround the Marines and then get my Banelings to hit them. But my opponent's tanks are still just doing so much damage. And at the end of the day, my opponent splits up his Marines once again. But it looks like I was able to hold off my opponent's attack Scratch had another attack coming in from the other side. So this Terran, guys, is really, really good. He's applying pressure when it's necessary. He's doing a ton of damage to my economy here, and he's preventing all mining from going on at the gold. But it looks like I should have enough forces to hold this off. Note right now that I have actually overspent my money into Lings and Banelings, because as you guys can see, I've got so much gas saved up. And really, you never really want to have, if you're Zerg, you don't want to have too many resources in one type. You don't want to have a bunch of gas and no minerals. That means, like, you know, you should have had more Mutalisks out, or, you know, something's wrong. Something's wrong with your macro and your unit composition. Either that, or you could save up your gas so you can have a bunch of Ultras at Hive Tech. And actually, that's kind of nice because I do have Ultralisk Cavern down. So I am going to look to get some Ultralisks out once I have enough minerals to fund the Ultralisks. But I will need to get my saturation going once again and get my drones over to that 5th Expo. Now, things are still kind of dicey for me because, as you guys can see, my opponent has the Planetary Fortress up. He has a ton of SCVs over there. I think he pulled over every single last unmining SCV and brought it over to that PF. So now I'm going to once again do my awesome Baneling drop play, something that a lot of times players just don't expect or don't see it coming until it's too late, until they see the green sacks dropping into the Baneling, into the mineral line. And yeah, it's a very, very powerful ability. So here I'm going to wait for the scan to wear off, and then I'm going to bring my Overlords around. Looks like my opponent, I guess, I don't know what those Marines are doing, but they are not going to be able to catch my Overlords in time, and the Baneling's going to drop into all of those SCVs, picking off quite a few. And so, really, if you're Terran and you guys want to be able to deal with those kind of Baneling drops in the late game, oftentimes it's really just going to come down to having great map control and throwing up sensor towers. I don't see Terrans throwing up sensor towers enough. They are so helpful because they would show those red exclamation points coming in and dropping off into your expansions and giving you a huge heads up. So my opponent here really never used sensor towers this game. It would have been nice for him to use them. He might have been able to hold off the Baneling drops, but otherwise, so far a very, very close game. And I'm very wary, of course, of the fact that my opponent has the gold. It's essentially, I would say, probably 2-base to 2-base Zerg right now, because my opponent has the back expansion. I just saw the command center land at the backside on the minimap, and I have 2 expansions as well. My gold is completely mined out, so it is 2-base Zerg versus 2-base Terran. And I think I have a slightly larger army size, so I should be able to deal with most attacks. But I really need to wait and try to get some Ultralisks out, because at this stage in the game, Ultralisks or even Broodlords are so helpful in helping you secure the game and get that victory down. Now, it looks like my opponent is posturing to make another attack. My first Ultralisk is finally out, and it's just such a huge comfort when you finally get your first Ultralisk. It's like, yeah, baby, I got an Ultralisk out. And it really does, it kind of helps you feel a little bit more secure about all those tanks and whatever units your opponent might have. So here we go, my opponent making another attack. Oh, my Mutalisk flying in there. I was actually trying to select the Mutalisks and pull them back, but my my click was actually misclick right there. So gotta work a little bit on that mouse accuracy. But here we go, gonna drop in Banelings once again into my opponent's mineral line, doing some severe economic damage, and all of this really does add up. If you play Terran, you know how long it takes to get SCVs out of your command centers. It takes a darn long time, and killing off all those SCVs hurts really, really, really bad. So I've got complete map control. I've got some of my Ultras out. Things are looking pretty good right now, and I'm just posturing myself to get ready to end this game. I know my opponent still has a pretty decently large army, and that's really because, you know, that gold expansion funds so many Marines. So here we go, here comes the next attack. My opponent hiding his Marines behind the tanks very wisely, keeping them away from my Banelings. I'm trying to roll my Banelings in. It looks like I was able to kill off a pretty decent sized handful of Marines. But my opponent still has quite a few Marines left, and unfortunately my Banelings got taken out. So Now the tables have actually turned quite a bit. My opponent making that last moment attack, and he was able to do quite a bit of damage. He picked off one of my only mining expansions, so now it's down to 1 base versus 2 base, and I've got to be able to deal with this. So if you're a Zerg, try to keep your cool. Try to get your Ultralisks out. I do have a pretty large army of Ultras right now, but my opponent once again picks off another hatchery. So things are looking pretty bleak. But I know that I've done some serious economic damage to my opponent. So I know right now, both of us are pretty hurt. So, you know, don't give up just because you've lost every single mining base. If you've done a ton of economic damage, like dropping banelings and mineral lines, killing off all those SCVs, making attack after attack happen, chances are the game is still pretty even. Nobody's really favored. You're not out of the game yet. So keep playing that game and make attacks happen. I know I have a large army size, and I know this is one of the only mining expansions my opponent has. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my Ultras in here and roll in, slice and dice some of those SCVs, and my opponent on the same train of thought. You know, he knows that right now he needs to make attacks happen on my economy. So he's bringing in Marines, he's trying to pick off hatcheries wherever he can. Unfortunately for him, there wasn't really any drones mining there. So it looks like right now I am going to be able to rebuild all my hatcheries up. I'm willing to bet at this point my opponent probably has a handful of Marines, a couple of tanks. He's gotta be starving out of money right now. And he probably doesn't have too many SCVs either. So it's actually really important for you to keep those Ultralisks alive if you're in this position. Obviously they're your most expensive and resilient units. You don't want to just let them die. And if necessary, use your queens. Use your queens to transfuse your Ultralisks, keep them healthy and alive. And it looks like right now I just scouted my opponent's army comp with my Overlord. I see what my opponent's got. I think I can take this down with my Ultra army, and I'm going to go ahead and move in with my 5 or 6 Ultras and just try to steamroll this planetary fortress and take it down. And it looks like I am going to be able to break it off and push my opponent all the way back. And so I think right now this should be GG. My opponent making that one last ditch attempt really did hurt me quite a bit. And this is where I was really, really scared. But thankfully I got my Ultras out. Better late than never. It took a long time to finally afford this many. But once you get this many Ultras out, you are a force to be reckoned with. Those Ultras are so darn good. And so my opponent Xerath calls GG. And that is Daily Ladder number 13. I hope you guys enjoyed this broadcast. I'm currently rank 4 in Diamond. I haven't been playing for quite a while, but I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the ranks of both my opponent and myself. My opponent was 2769 as Terran, and my current rank right now, which I haven't shown you guys in quite some time, so I'm going to go ahead and just give you guys an update, is currently Laggy BNet 2.0. It is currently 2625. So I hope you guys enjoyed this broadcast. We're going to have more games coming out soon. And yeah, HD signing out. Monday Daily. Take it easy, guys.